We've been working on a series called the I Am Sayings of Jesus, and today is the final one as we come together on this day. First and foremost, I want to celebrate by saying Happy Easter, everybody. Indeed. This is the day the tomb was found empty. This is the day that Jesus was bodily risen from the grave. Christians are known to be Easter people. We're full of joy. That's who we are. But it really begs this question. What do we really believe about Easter? Well, what do we really believe about Easter? I think the question really matters. Recently I came across a survey that was done and published in 2023 by Lifeway, and we've used many of their materials throughout the years. It's a solid group, and they asked questions across the country, and they came back with some interesting results. They said of the people they surveyed, 2/3 of U.S. adults, 66%, say the biblical accounts of the physical resurrection of Jesus are accurate. They believe this event actually occurred according to the Lifeway study. Yet, despite accepting the biblical accounts of Jesus' resurrection, many people, Americans, see little connection with the risen Jesus and their daily lives. This is the quote I want to share. In this survey, as part of the summary, they wrote this: most Americans believe Jesus rose from the dead on the first Easter Sunday. They're just not sure if it matters much. I want you to think about that for a second. It's a new survey. It was over the whole country. What's really interesting, of the 66% of Americans who say they really believe that Jesus rose historically, if you go into the survey, it actually says more than 50% are not sure it matters much. Okay, that's the world we live in. This is the world we have to address. Does Easter matter? What do you really believe about it? Now, I think it's important first we start with the term believe. The word believe, particularly in the Gospel of John, is critical. In the Bible, the word believe is more than just an intellectual assent. It is, I believe something, I intellectually believe it, but I also come over and I put my weight on it. I act on it. I live it out. So scripturally, believe means to intellectually accept it, but it also means to live it out. In fact, biblically, you can only believe if you understand it and live it. Okay, that's what believe really means. I want us to turn to John chapter 11, the passage that Bev just read, because I want to stretch our belief a little bit. God constantly, we have this idea, I think I did for a lot of my life, I believe in Jesus, I'm in. I got the card. You know what I mean? I joined. I'm in. And I always thought that was enough. And one thing I have found the more I read Scripture, believing isn't just a one-time and done thing. I believe in Jesus, but you realize every day He says, I want you to know more. I want you to know me better. I want you to know me deeper. I want you to know me more so you can enjoy my presence more. You can see me move more. You can see more things happen around you of what I'm doing. He is stretching us as He stretched the disciples every day. And I think one of the best examples I can give you is in John 11. So let's turn to this passage, and I think it's going to stretch all of us on what you say you believe. John 11 starts with the story of Lazarus and his two sisters. They lived in the little town of Bethany, which is right outside of Jerusalem. They were probably very wealthy, very connected people by all accounts. And they were very, very good friends of Jesus. Now, what's significant, somehow they got word to Jesus, because Jesus is way up north in Galilee. And they got word to Jesus and saying, hey, Lazarus is really sick, you better come. You would think Jesus would stop everything, drop everything, and run to Jerusalem to be with him. Now you got to remember, the last time that Jesus was in Jerusalem, they tried to stone him, they tried to kill him. But when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he tells his disciples, no, Lazarus has gone to sleep, and I'm going to go down and wake him up in a little bit. And the disciples all go, well, that's good. I'm glad he's sleeping. I'm glad he's resting. Sleep is good for him. And Jesus goes, all right, look, guys, you're not getting it. Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I am glad I wasn't there, so that you may believe. Now, from everything in this whole passage, this whole chapter is about growing in your belief. Wherever you are, you're going to grow here. So hang on, here we go. I am glad I was not there so that you may believe, but let's go to him. So they travel down, they come into Bethany. Martha and Mary, her sister, were in their house mourning. Martha hears Jesus is coming into town, and she goes out and says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And I think the emphasis is correct, by the way. I think the hand was definitely on the hip. I really like Martha. I would have hired Martha. You know what I mean? I already know where I'd put, she's that kind of, I would just love to work with her. She'd drive me nuts, but it'd be great. But the Lord's about to stretch her belief. Okay? But look what she says. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. I know you can heal. I know you can do all this stuff. I just know you can't do anything more right now, Jesus, but I really appreciate the fact you're here. Jesus says to her, your brother will rise again. Okay. Martha answers, and she's going to answer with the appropriate theology for a conservative Jewish person at this time. Somebody who is very well taught in synagogue. She got it. This is what you believe. This was appropriate belief. I know that Lazarus will rise again at the resurrection at the last day. There's nothing wrong with that. Jesus doesn't say she's wrong. This is what a conservative Jewish person believed. Actually, most Christians would say this is the answer. I've heard this said to me many times. But Jesus answers in a way which is going to start stretching her. Let's see what she says. See what he says. Jesus says to her, I am, present tense. Martha said, I know at the last day there'll be an event. Something's going to happen where all the dead will rise, they'll be resurrected. One day, future tense. Jesus says, no. Present tense, I am. Okay, I'm right in front of you. I am the resurrection and the life. Those articles, those thes, are definite articles, and they are there in the Greek. I am the resurrection. Resurrection is what happens to someone at the moment of death. I am the one who's going to change everything at that moment of death. I am the one who offers you life, the life. We chase every kind of life there is. We go after things, we collect things. There's job, there's education, there's the money thing. I know I've gone after it too. There's everything. We have all kinds of stuff, what life is all about. But he's saying the real life, the only life is me. I am the resurrection and the life. Now look what he says. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. Now, how can that be true? How can someone live even though they die? Do you realize what he's saying here? Yes, you are going to die. Everyone does. Every one of us is going to die one day, unless Jesus comes back before that. But he's saying, even when your body dies, you will not die. The moment your body stops, you'll be ushered into my presence. You will not die. There is life after death. Do you get that? He says, I am the life. This isn't a future event you got to wait for. You live in it right now if you're in me. The one who believes, there's that word again, who thinks about it, who intellectually understands it and puts their weight on it, trusts me, will live even though they die. This is what he's saying to Martha, and he's stretching her. He's going to stretch her real big here in just a second, because he goes on and says, I am the resurrection and I am the life. She's heard for some time, as we've been studying the last few weeks, a number of statements that Jesus has made saying, I am statements. These are all statements that reveal who Jesus is. I am the bread of life. And he always makes these statements either right before or right after he's about to do something. He says, I'm the bread of life right after he fed the 5,000 in the wilderness. He says, I am the light of the world right before he heals a man born blind. That's impossible. No one's ever healed a man born blind. I am the door, and he says, I am the good shepherd. Both of these are in a conversation with the Pharisees, where the Pharisees are saying, I'm the way to God. We are the way to God. We are the ones who are caring for our people. And Jesus says, no, I am the only door, and I am the good shepherd. You have to choose. And then he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Let me be very clear what that means. I am the only way, the only truth, and the only life. He's not merely one way to God, or he is not just one of many ways to God. He is the only way. He alone is the source of all life. And then he says, I am the true vine, and we are all the branches. It's not just about bearing fruit. My life is dependent upon my ability to hang in there with him. And if I'm not in him, I have no life, let alone fruit. This is what Martha's been hearing, and she's been growing in her faith. Jesus then says to her again, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? It's one thing to intellectually think about this. It's another thing when somebody asks the question, do you believe this? And he pushes it. She says, yes, Lord. I believe you are the Messiah. But look what she says. She answers with the knowledge she has. She says, let me tell you what I believe about you right now. I've seen you do a whole bunch of stuff. I believe you are the Messiah, the Christ, the promised one, the Son of God who is to come into the world. This is what I believe. Do you know every one of us has some kind of belief in Jesus? We do. Everybody does. You guys who are watching, everyone around you has some kind of belief. What Jesus does for each of us, it is his will and his hope every day that we would grow in our believing so we would see him more completely. And watch what happens. Jesus now meets Mary. Mary has come out of the house, and they start walking to the tomb in this little town of Bethany. And they come up to the tomb, and we have all the mourners there. You got to know at this time, if you were a wealthy family and someone died, it was standard practice to have wailers, women who wail. You would hire wailers to come be a part of it. In fact, that was the appropriate thing to do to show your respect for the dead one. I can't imagine what it would have been like to have many wailing people there, wailing women. Just, I don't think you could even think, because it would just go on for days, literally 7 days. So as Jesus comes up the tomb, let me set the stage. All these women, there's probably this is a wealthy family. They probably had 15, 20 wailing women with instruments. I mean, it just, not like our praise team, Andrew, wherever you are. It wasn't like the praise team. I mean, this was wailing, okay? All the people were there. There's weeping, because part of it, the public weeping was a show of respect. So you have weeping going on, and all this is happening. And he's deeply moved. And he comes up to the tomb. It's a cave with a stone. Usually they're about 5 foot high, between 4 and 5 foot. I've seen those stones. They're about that thick. And they roll them in, and they go up a hill a little bit, and they come back in a track. There's usually a small hole in the middle. You put like a log in there. That's how you'd open and close those things. It's a big stone. And they come up to the cave with a stone across the entrance. Okay, here's the question that's going to stretch Martha. Here's the question that's going to test her, say, what do you really believe? Because Jesus does this to us in a good way, hard way, but he does. He asks her, take away the stone, he said. Take away the stone. But look what she says. Lord, but by this time, Lazarus has been there 4 days. By this time, there's a real bad odor. It's been really hot, Lord. You get the picture? It's been really hot. Now, 3 days, everybody knows, 3 days, it was believed that the spirit of the loved one would kind of hang around the body. That's why you went to the tomb. There are some people that believed that just maybe if they came back to life, you could hear them. You know what I mean? Or even better, if you could get there to the tomb, you could be in their presence and you could sense your loved one for the last time. That's why people went to the tomb, guys. And that's a common practice throughout history, actually. But Jesus has been there 4 days. Everybody knew after 3 days, game over. He dead. He's hopelessly dead. There's no hope. I mean, he's real dead. We do not open the door anymore. You with me? You need to understand this is a hopeless situation, or you won't understand what the question is Jesus has asked. He has asked her to do something awful, rough, terrible, embarrassing, in front of all of her friends and family. Open up the door. You've got to be kidding. To a good Jew, opening up a tomb, it would have been offensive. And yet, Martha goes, Lord, he dead. But look what Jesus says. Did I not tell you that if you believe, are you willing to believe? I told you I'm the resurrection and the life. Will you believe? But belief isn't just intellectual sin. Guess what? You get to act on it. What did he do with this? He says, I'm going to stretch you here, but I'm going to give you a promise. If you believe, you're going to see the glory of God. There's a promise here. Yes. But also, if you believe, he says, the emphasis is on me, not on what I'm going to do. Trust me, believe in me. That's what this is going on. But he says, I want you to confess your belief now. I need you to decide I'm going to believe Jesus even when it doesn't make sense. I want you to believe Jesus. I want you to believe me even when it's hard. Even when everybody else says it can't be true. I want you to believe in me. And she's just, I can see Martha just gulping. And then lastly, by this question, he asks her, guess what? When you believe, you're going to put it in action. Will you trust me? If I am who I said I am, will you trust me when I tell you to do something? She doesn't say anything. We have no record of a word here. I think she nodded. She waved. It probably took 4 men to roll that stone away, and I imagine there was horror. I imagine the place went absolutely quiet. They had never seen something like this. I need you, it probably have never seen a grave open on the 4th day. I don't know if we can really get a grasp of how horrible that was for this time. At this point, the tomb is opened. Jesus looks up and says, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here. In other words, I don't need to pray out loud to you, Lord. You know that. My Father, we talk. But for those gathered here, I want to pray. Why? So that they may believe. This belief thing is serious. He wants you and he wants me, he wants the church to grow in what they believe about Jesus, who he is, so that they will be more useful, more part of what he's doing. But he's praying all this so that they may believe that you sent me. When he said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. Now, there are many who believe that if Jesus would have just said, come out, every grave around them would have opened up and everybody would have come out. Let me tell you, that would have made the front page of the paper. I can't even imagine that. And then he goes on and says, or what happens is the dead man came out, the hands and feet wrapped in strips of linen and a cloth around about his face. He was not resurrected, he's resuscitated. He was brought back to life. He's in his human body, right? He's in his human body. He will die again. But he comes out and he's wrapped in strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Someone else has to unwrap him. Do you realize the church that's what we're supposed to do? We unwrap the dead, come back to life. Those wrapped up in sin, those who are broken by life, those who are wrapped up in so much mess, we help them unwrap themselves so they may know the life that God has given them. That's why we're here. It's nothing we've done. It's not psychology. No, we unwrap the dead so they can find life because they have come back to life in Jesus. And with a new life, they live life differently. Now, today we are at another tomb. The women are on their way to this tomb. They know that Jesus is dead. Absolutely, clearly know it. They saw him on the cross. They saw the spear pierce his side and what came out. They know he was dead. John was there, the writer of this apostle, the only one of the 12. He was there when the body was taken down. He knows Jesus was dead. The women know that he's dead. They brought spices. They're carrying spices to the tomb and ointments so they can prepare the body for the final burial. They know he's dead. They also know we're still in the 3-day thing. They're finishing up the job. But they know he's dead. It's over with. But a week ago, it was just a week from Lazarus. A week ago, Jesus said to Martha, I am the resurrection and I am the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever believes in me will never die. Do you believe that? To Lazarus, he said, take off the grave clothes and let him go. The question this morning is this: what do you really believe about Easter? What are you wrapped up in? What wraps you up so you can't live freely? What do you believe about sin? What do you believe about death? I want to read this quote again. Most Americans believe Jesus rose from the dead on the first Easter Sunday. They really do. I looked at Barna. I've looked at a lot of different people who survey people in our country. They're just not sure it matters much. Okay. I think it matters everything. So what do you really believe about Easter? Yeah, on that cross, Jesus carried my sins. On that cross, on Friday night, Good Friday, Jesus paid the price for my sins and your sins. Why does that matter? Because sin led to death. Because of sin, we die. That's the consequences of sin. Sin had to be addressed first. Then he's going to deal with death. This morning, Friday night, he dealt with sin. Today is a different day. This is Easter. On Easter, he's dealing with death. But death couldn't hold him. There's nothing he can do. There's nothing anyone could do. Death could not hold him. He said that he is the resurrection and the life. And yes, he showed his authority over death by calling forth Lazarus from the dead. But he proves he is the resurrection on Easter morning, because look what happened to himself. He showed us what resurrection looks like. And if we accept Jesus Christ, that resurrection power is in us. And one day we will join him in that resurrected state. And in the meantime, the claim of Scripture is that we can know his life in us right now. Does that matter? With that power in us, does it matter? It means forgiveness is possible. It means love is possible. It means change is possible. It means we join what God's doing around us. He's redeeming the world, and we get to be part of that if we choose. If we say, Lord, I believe. Help me to believe more. Stretch me. Let's go. I want to believe more because I want more of you in my life. I want to see more. I want to see you move more. I want to see what you're doing around me. What do you really believe about Easter? We're Easter people. We believe in a God who is everything he claims he is. He is the life. And he's the resurrection. I don't have to be afraid of death. I don't have to be afraid of anything. I'm in his hands. He promises nothing, anything can take me out of his hand. What do you really believe about Easter?